Well, let's get started. So as I said, this course is going to be on HANA 2.0 SP03, revision 33. So it's going to be the latest version in SAP HANA, and also I'm going to focus more on XS Advanced Server. So there are two flavors in XS application server, basically in HANA itself. One is XS Classic and XS Advanced. So it's been a while. HANA has been in SAP's portfolio, and it's like 6-7 years. It's been very popular, and we've been using HANA Studio, and we were so comfortable on HANA Studio. We were doing all SQL coding, data warehousing, and all kind of store procedures and etc. Modeling using CVs, calculation views, and giving them to analytics. So far, well, very good, and we were able to use this software very efficiently. There is also another flavor. I don't call it this is a flavor, but it's an option. It's an advanced option, which is called XS Advanced. So that is it is introduced in SP11 actually, and then it came up in a very efficient and more more featured and able in SP01 in 2.0. So so in 2.0 SP03 we got two flavors. One is classic and as well as advanced. So my course is going to be morely focusing on XS Advanced than XS Classic. I have done several XS Classic sessions before. I can take up some of the basic sessions for the people who did not have any experience on doing any of the HANA basics in Studio and old concepts of repository, SQL, the basics in SQL, and etc. Don't worry about that. It's not a big change in terms of understanding what was done, how it is to be done in XS Classic using an HANA Studio and some of the old tools. Yes, I do call them as old tools because they are deprecated already. Deprecated meaning that they are not advised to be used in any of the client environments, which means there's going to be a new version major release from SAP, which will remove the XS Classic and only support XS Advanced going forward. I don't know what is that going to be the major release. It could be SP05, which may come after a year or so. I'm not sure, but the next major release is going to remove XS Classic from your HANA infrastructure. So with that introduction, we now understand that there is a lot of importance in understanding XS Advanced Server versus XS Classic Server. And then in my course, I will take care of how the differences are delta between XS Classic and XS Advanced, and how it is to be done in XS Classic and how we do it in XS Advanced, so that you can understand what's been actually changed, how this is formulated in XS Advanced versus the previous tooling and etc. With that little introduction, I wanted to jump on to the topic for this today's session. So I'm going to talk about several use cases of HANA, which I always use for any of the sessions which I take in the introduction session. And I'm going to show you the tooling which I'm going to use for these sessions of this course. The tooling in terms of several development tools, the code base, how do I save the code in my Git repository, and etc. So we're going to talk a little bit of tooling as well. And then at the end of session, I hope you will get a good idea of what is this course is going to be, how it's going to be useful for you, and etc. You can make a wise decision whether it is really useful or not at this point of time, or you can wait, or whatever it comes after. Okay. If you have any question, just put it on the chat window. I'll be able to see that and take a pause, and I'll be able to reply you as I get to that. Okay, you can see my screen. If you're not able to see my screen, you can just put a text on my chat window so that I can I can try to troubleshoot that problem. You can see my screen. There's a little slide which I'm using here. It's going to be um, it's going to talk about several use cases of HANA in general of a production environment or customer environment. So you can see I have listed 5. There could be more. Even your cloud applications might be using HANA, but that's not my interest of the course. I'm going to focus on these topics where I have some expertise and where this is very related to the people whom I am targeting in this course. So I wanted to give some good summary of what are these use cases and what are the tools we have currently to support these use cases, and how I'm going to deal with these use cases in my current course in the next 35 40 hours session 40 hours of sessions. Yeah, that's it. Let's get into the topic. So I have the first use case as the database and using HANA as a database and SQL data warehouse. That is the fundamental use case and fundamental existence of HANA as a database, SAP's own database, and also using it as a data warehousing application for clients who are going on natively on HANA. There is traditionally there is a big robust data warehousing application in SAP world, which is BW system. It is also a different use case for doing the data warehousing. So the native SQL data warehouse or database as a HANA is the very important use case, and many customers are trying to get into this scenario to get big data and several machine learning and etc. to get used to all these services, which they are really difficult in doing the traditional data warehousing using BW on HANA or BW for HANA, whatever you can call. Um, uh, there's another use case of application development. This is a native application development where the people use native coding languages, which are Node.js, Java, Python, to do server-side scripting and put UI5 coding to get an application completely as simple your mobile application or your laptop application, and give it to the user, and then the user can access them. And all this full stack development is available in native application development. That's the biggest. That's not a biggest use case at this moment, because SAP market is not to attract all the non-HCP's customers to go on this native application development at this point. They are trying to get the new customers, and eventually this is going to be a new product which can be sold to different customers, for new customers as well. Okay, S4HANA, I'm not going to into the detail of S4HANA. I'm only going to touch the S4 analytics part and how that is impacted with the native data warehouse or native HANA capabilities. So it's going to be very little in S4HANA. Also, of course, the most popular data warehousing use case is BW HANA. I'm going to little bit of BW HANA as well. And finally, I wanted to touch base on these cloud platform as well. It's very important as new, all the new things coming in cloud platform first, and then all they are actually coming into on-premise later. Could it be S4 HANA? Could it be native HANA? HANA as a service? All these are Web ID. All these development and systems are first going to be generally available in cloud platform as a cloud application to customers, and then they're coming on-premise in a few days after. So it's very important to know how the cloud platform works, and then in terms of data warehousing and data analytics part, for us at least, that's our, there are many more scenarios in cloud platform itself use. We're not going to see the entire cloud platform, how does it work. We just focus on how the, the topics which are really belong to us. Us means, I always say, the title of the title which I always keep in my mind is HANA developer or modeler kind of title, where you do several database related stuff and do warehousing and do simple analytics or complex analytics on top of that. That's pretty much what a data modeler or HANA modeler or developer. This case is a little bit more application development. We don't get into the details of application development, but we cross our paths in application development. It's very important to know at least to understand what is going on application development. Let's see in a different page of these use cases and what are the tooling we have right now to work on these different use cases. These are all different projects, and one is it's very hard that we may be working in any of these two projects at the same time in a big company. So you will have either use case one as on one of the projects, or you may be in S4 Analytics, or you may be in BW4, or you may be completely working on cloud platform, you may be a native application developer. So we find our role where we're going to fit it in. Our course objective is to get expertise on this use case, this project, and at the same time I wanted to give you a flavor of native application development, so that even you cross your paths working with other developers in native application development, you'll be able to understand what is going on there. And similarly BW4 and S4 and then cloud. Okay, I'm going to stop this one here and then jump on to a different slide. If you have any questions, let me know. I will be able to take them. Yeah, that's good. I hope you're following me. Okay, this is the slide which I used in XS Classic time, a little bit modified, but it is almost same. So you can easily understand the people who already have some experience in HANA, they can really follow easily. But if don't worry about that. I'm going to take some backup sessions for the people who did not have experience on SAP HANA before, which is your studio and your repository, building views, etc. I'm going to take some backup sessions to get up to speed with the new XS Advanced topics in a later stage. Not in a later stage, maybe in as early as possible, so that you don't fall aside or fall behind with the current course content. Okay, so this is the first scenario I just talked about, where you got HANA is being used as the database and data warehouse. And you can see that there are several source systems, and you could be SAP or non-SAP, and you're getting the data completely natively into the HANA database. You stage it, and then you transform them using ETLs. You can even use data services to do the ETLs inside the HANA, and you can use smart data access and smart data integration, flow graphs for doing the transformations and loading the data into another table in HANA. But we'll have to be very careful in doing this in HANA, because we don't want to duplicate the data in in HANA, because of the reason that it's in memory. Everything is in memory. So you wanted to be a little careful. And of course, I'm not giving any of the topics of XS Classic, or actually in the general topics of HANA, which are loading, unloading, and merge, delta merging, name server. These are the general architecture principles behind HANA system landscape, which are kind of boring to me, because you don't really understand until you finish your developments and then come back to the server, and you'll understand in a very good way. So I don't want to get into those architecture things at the very first moment. So you move on to the design principles first, and then understand the design, how does it work, and then we'll come back to the architecture principles of HANA, so that you understand in a better way. So keep in mind that I'm not really taking the whole charts of the flow graph, the beautiful charts of HANA diagrams, where you got servers, name server, those all kind of architecture system landscape thing. Yeah, I don't, you can park that for a while. Then you build the calculation views on top of that, and then you consume them in business objects or Fury apps. That's by using RESTful web services called OData. That's been the classic scenario which you've been using it for a while. And there's been something introduced in XS Advanced server. The XS Classic and XS Advanced are an applications or the application servers in are coupled with your database. It's your database just is not just the database. On top of your database, SAP giving an application server, lightweight access short or extra short, you can call this. It's a lightweight application service where you can build some control logic and then give the access of your database to external or web applications. So that's the idea behind giving a lightweight application server initially with Access Classic. Now it is formulating in a very wider range using Access Advanced. So with that Access Advanced, there's a lot of things changed. So you will have the similar architecture, but you have a lot of different things came in here, which are like HDI infrastructure. You got a different development tool called Web IDE, and you got Git for your source repository. You don't keep your code in Web IDE. Your permanent storage is going to be Git repository, which is privately available in your company or your organization. So all these kind of different things came in terms of doing the same stuff what we were doing before in a different way. The reason for it is it's a microservices based architecture, and we generally available in open source platform, and many customers and not even SAP, outside of SAP all world also using this open source based microservices architecture. So that is the fundamental reason for going on Access Advanced, using these all different concepts of the infrastructure, build packs, Web IDE tooling, and Git repository, and etc. So we're going to see a flavor of how does the Access Advanced look like in a minute now. We'll take a pause here and see if there is a question. There's a question here. For report and dashboard application, we don't develop Fiori apps. Is that? Yeah, it's two different things. Your company may have your BobJ or business objects or Power Designer or your Tableau as your reporting tool. So where you can just access your calculation views as data sources and build your dashboards or reports based on the tool what you're going to use, what you're using in your current organization. That's your scenario. The Fiori app is something different. There's no direct relation between business object and Fiori app. Fiori app is an open HT. You don't have to have a Fiori app here. Fiori is optional here. So because I'm not using any of the SAP technology here, it's native. So it's your option that if you're going to use Fiori, yeah, of course you can use. But many customers who are not on SAP, they don't use Fiori at all. They in a complete typical native scenario, there is nothing Fiori much available. If you want, you can still use. It's basically your HTML5 or UI5 code, which you will write in your studio previously or in right now currently in Web IDE to build that application. That's a web application where you users will be given a link, a web link. HTTP request comes into the application server, and then the request will go further into the database and then gets the response back and then given to the to HTTP location using OData RESTful web services. That's kind of a more application development scenario. I just put it in here, but I'm saying that you may have same kind of simple consumption of your calculation view in HTML5 without having a robust application development, which you will see in application development. So don't get confused with this diagram here. This diagram is more meaningful in reporting and analytics in native data warehousing scenario. Okay. Yeah. And then I'm going to show you how does it look like in the system. How do we go? So basically, I'll go a couple of minutes on how it used to be done. Basically, this is my Eclipse. I use Eclipse versus always than Studio. Same, you can get the same feeling of Studio as well as Eclipse. They're pretty much same installation in the background. There is a purpose. Eclipse is not going to get away soon because there is something else which I will talk in a few minutes, where we will definitely need Eclipse tools even in XS Advanced as well. I'll explain the reasons for that scenario. It's a very common application which you would have seen many times in your, if you already had an experience in HANA Studio. So you got two main perspectives here as a modeler. You get HANA Modeler where you can see your catalog and you have content, and you also have your provisioning for your remote sources like SDA and SDI and etc. You got your security where you can build create users and provide roles to the users and do all kind of security in here. Then content is you're going to be your repository where you develop your CVs, your decision tables and flow graphs and etc. and all kind of repository objects. And when you activate them, they will become a runtime object in your catalog as a physical object. Mostly all your CVs are going to be under sysbig schema, and your tables are going to be on one of these schemas like EDW landing and etc. And then you leverage those tables and you build information views and then activate them, and those views you'll be consuming in reporting application. That's a very common scenario. So you may be doing the ETL scenario in order to transform the data from one table to another table by using SDI flow graphs or BODS, whatever the options you get. This is a common scenario which you've been doing. So you've got administrator who can more work on the administration. So you can see there is an administration thing here, little tool icon. You can do a lot of server monitoring and etc. etc. So this is a typical scenario. Let's see how the tooling is changed in terms of XS Advanced Server, which is I was talking about. And then basically the development tool is being changed. It's now called Web IDE. It's not your old Web IDE where you used to have a web workbench kind of thing. That's, some people call that as also Web IDE, but that's not the same. And it is also not the same one as in your cloud platform. It's a web link, but it's an on-premise installation on your computer and on your server, on your company server. Okay, and here I'm going to have a development perspective, and here I build my project. So I got several templates in my, and then I'm going to build all my objects like tables, CVs, and all kinds of store procedures, everything. I'm going to create them first here. As soon as I build them, they get converted into runtime objects, and then I can access them in another way, the tab, which is your database explorer. So you can see all of these. If I expand the catalog, you can see all these schemas here. So I can compare Studio and this here. So all your catalog, what you see in your Studio, is going to be in the database explorer. It's not a 100% comparison, but it's more very similar. We'll see the differences if there are any. And you can see the development perspective is your content. Whatever you do it in content, you mostly end up in doing in workspace. That's very simple comparison I'm telling, but there is a lot of things you may have to be understanding in formulating your YAML file. This is a descriptor file which you will have to be very comfortable with in your code editor. What are the node versions it requires, what modules what resources it required, and And of course, every application requires a JSON file, package JSON file, which talks about your software Node.js module, which is required for deploying this application. Um, the whole HDI deployment is created in Node.js. That doesn't mean that you have to learn Node.js. That I'm saying that this software is built on Node.js module. So even for database developers, it doesn't leave. Node.js has become so important that you don't have to code in Node.js for database development, but I'm saying that the containers and HDI things which I was talking about here in this scenario is the infrastructure is built using Node.js code, Node.js libraries, Node.js modules. Um, anyway, coming back here, so you'll be doing a lot of object development here, and then as soon as you finish your development, you start building them, and then they get built into your database or runtime object, physically go into the database. But whatever you have here, it's nothing. You can just go and delete anytime. You cannot do that same thing in Studio, because if you do that, you're going to, sorry, but it's not, it's a very simple development tool. So where does your object get stored? That's the point that Git coming in. There is a close integration with Git repository. So you can, as soon as you finish your code, you will put your code into, commit your code into Git repository. And then you'll be able to see a repository here, just like there are several projects which I have. These are all the different projects, and different containers going to be created for those. So uh, if any other developer is going to come, they're going to pull my code, which I committed yesterday or recently, and then start developing on top of that. And then he can branch it, and then he can do sub-branching. With the recent release, cherry picking, berry picking, all sorts of core development features available in GitHub. GitHub is an open source technology, and it allows you to work in DevOps model. It is owned by Microsoft. It's very powerful. It's very, very powerful in maintaining your source repository. You can have multiple different versions of your code at the same time without disturbing any other people's work. It's amazing. It looks very difficult initially when you're working, but as soon as you get adjusted to it, you will see less conflicts between different developers. Because there used to be so many issues we used to get in Studio with the repository, especially um, uh, one person locks the object, and then we will wait for that person to deploy or activate that and move that to the next system. Until then, we will have to wait. We don't have to do all these things now. It's very powerful. You can take over other developers object, and then you can go before the other developers work without disturbing his work. You can just take a copy. There's a lot of so many features in GitHub. We'll go to do that. So your repository is not going to be in your Studio. There's nothing in Web IDE which you will rely on. It's completely stored in GitHub. As soon as you come in the morning, you can pull that project and then start doing your developments from the latest version which was there. So it's pretty neat. Okay, so that's about the tooling for developers. So what about for the the administrators? There is a different. You don't do any administrations in this tool. There is another tool which is called XS. So there's another administrator cockpit where you can build your users. You can start creating your user management. You can assign the role collection, your security, host management, there's whole service management, and etc. An XSA, which you can do. This is not a database security and database administration. It's this access application management, because you understand that this the user security is isolated now. We got database user and we got an application user in Access Advanced. You can have an application user, but may not have an access in database. So your database user is different and your application user is different. So you can see that XSA dev is my XSA user, an XSA dev may not be available in database. You can check that by going into this studio for now. So I didn't set up it so that I can now, so that the administration of XSA is going to be in an advanced XSA advanced cockpit. There's another cockpit for database administration where you can maintain the server users, database users, and that is also a web link. So in order to get that link, you go into an SSS console, and then you can just pick the this one, cockpit web app. It's going to take you into system administration tool. You need an access for this one. I need to get in as a system user. I don't know I can access it at this moment. Yeah, I cannot access. I have to open in a different place because it is still taking my my other credentials in the other server. So I'm opening in a new Cognito window so that other page credentials don't get into here. Oh, sorry. So there is some issue with my account. This is I'm not able to get into the administration page. I'll have to check why I'm not able to get into the database administration with my ID. Okay, but that is for the admin security and basis who can do the user setup and etc. Okay, and that's about the tooling. And you will frequently use the command line tool, a secret SSH or PuTTY or one of these tools to do several stuff. At this moment, you can just do access. You can issue some commands like access apps. You wanted to see all the access application server apps. It is going to display. You're going to see the container stuff. You're going to use access command line tool a lot. You can use a alternatively. You can use PuTTY if you are set up, but it's up to you. You can even use your command line, which you just do CMD and then get into command line. That's it. You can do the same thing from the command line as well. That's about the tooling, and your all code base. Mostly, I prefer to use something called Visual Studio Code. You can keep all your code base to see to take it from the Visual Studio and then put it on your mm, and then see that it's a very, you can use Sublime or Notepad plus or whatever, but I feel it is more comfortable in using this one here. So you can have all your JSON extensions. So I'm going to use my Visual Studio Code to do my exercises. It comes very handy for me to take this code from here and then use it on my web ID and then start building it. I'm going to explain each line. What is it going? Okay, what is this package.json is really required for a modeler? Yes, of course. It sounds difficult initially because as a modeler we were so comfortable in doing simple graphical one or maybe a little bit of SQL. But when you come to a multi-target application in Web IDE, we may have to do some more stuff in a coder way. Okay, that's about the use case for the modeler. Node.js, yes, it's similar to JavaScript. It's Node.js, yes. This is a server-side scripting, and there are multiple options for you in doing server-side scripting. It could be a Node.js, it could be Java or Python. There are several runtimes available in XSA on-premise, so you can use your own language, not your own language. Maybe still there are some challenges in other languages using in application server code, but the more popular languages in XS application development is Node.js at this moment. And of course your XSJS still, sorry, I haven't finished my second use case so that you get you get a good understanding of Node.js and how it is related to our thing. So far in this modeling use case, we don't really use Node.js, and we don't need to know at all in this first use case. So you're not focusing on any of the application development. Can we see all schemas in WebID which are in Studio and vice versa? Yeah, if you can see as a classic schema, you can see all the schemas, but you are working on XS Advanced based projects, you will not be able to see them. Your containers are isolated. If I have to show you in a diagram way, this is how it is going to be built. As soon as you build a project, it's going to build in a container which is called HDI container. There could be each developer itself again gets its own container and development system. Your developments are isolated completely from one container to another container. So in order to access any objects which is outside of container, you'll use synonyms and services to get and assign the roles uh, to that particular container user. It's a whole bunch of topics we'll have to cover. This is not simple. Yes, it's not simple. Security is heavily involved in doing such things. So I will have to explain in a detailed session so that I can answer this question as it is isolated, and you cannot see any other containers objects in one container. So you will have to be very careful in doing the design itself. You cannot just go and for test purpose you can build containers. It is architectural decisions have to be made in terms of creating a space, containers, and etc. The Cloud Foundry concepts come in really handy for those things, but it's something which we'll have to learn in the future days. So I'm going on to second use case, which is application development. It's a very similar one. You may have all these things coming in XS Classic. We used to have XSJS or OData. There was the only sources available for us to get application development done in XS Classic days. I mean, currently also. XSJS is JavaScript on client-side JavaScript, where you can build some server-side scripting using the APIs, several APIs to connect to the database. SAP has given several APIs, and then you can build a RESTful API and give that access to your UI5 apps as an HTTP response. OData is something very simple, so that you can just, if your apps are kind of a SAP S4 related or business related app, you can just need some crude operations, something like simple navigations and etc. OData comes in very handy because of the modal supportability in UI5. So OData and UI, but if you're going crazy on your code logics and custom coding, XSJS was the option we had in XS Classic. And that was the only runtime we had it. Now in XS Advanced, the application development is open to several languages, starting from Node.js. You got Java, Python, kind of C++ environment. SAP has installed as part of XS Advanced Server. You get runtimes for all these languages, as we calling them as build packs in Cloud Foundry. So same concept introduced by SAP in on-premise and named as XS Advanced. So the whole concepts of the Cloud Foundry is being introduced by SAP for on-premise customers as an XS Advanced server. So we'll hear interchangeable the terms called Cloud Foundry and XS Advanced interchangeably. If it is CF, that means it's cloud platform, it's cloud. If it is XS Advanced, that is it's on-premise. Well, why do we need to know these application development? As we've been a good database developer and we've been a good data warehousing consultant. So why should we really learn this XS Advanced? Yes, sorry, this application development, yes, there is a strong reason for that. The whole microservices architecture, continuous build, continuous deployment, building an application which is glued together with different services, your DB services, your Node.js services, and UI services, all small microservices scaled up properly to build an application. That's actually the microservices architecture, which is going to support the DevOps model with continuous integration and deployment using GitHub. So that's the main motive of having the whole architecture change in XS Advanced. So they changed the application development. With that result, they also changed the database development to HDI infrastructure as well to support the microservices architecture, which is available in Cloud Foundry. So since there is a big driver for that, so in order to understand um, how these application server languages are um, used in your server-side scripting, you may not be writing in server-side scripting as a non-coder. Uh, but you may have to understand there is a big use case other than you build simple, maybe complex calculation views and give them to your reporting application. There is a big use case for you, uh, for your database developer, to give those data to access to several server-side scripting languages, and then build your security there and then expose them to the application level outside of your HANA, which is going to run on UI. I don't call it Fury, you can just call it UI 5. Or you may use Fury. So that's the driver for to support continuous integration and continuous deployment. This whole model has been changed, and also to support different build packs, runtime environments, very close to cloud. That's how the cloud native development is going to happen. You cannot restrict your developer to use one just language when you're especially going on cloud. So cloud native means you can be on any of these languages and deploy them, supportability, and etc. That's about the application development, but we'll still touch building some basic server-side scripting and also some UI5 scripting to understand how a full stack development happens in on-premise native application development. Yeah, that's about application development, and we're going to use the same web IDE for this stuff. I'm getting this here. Sorry. Yeah, you got a node. If you click on this this project, you can see new project. I can take any of the project, and then as soon as you create a project under the project, you got several modules to be created. You can create sorry for this. HTML5 module, Node.js module, and you got Fury, you got UI5 HTML module and Java module. So these you can start building these modules and then connect to the database and then also provide your response to HTML or web module. So that's a full stack development is going to be. Even though you're not going to do all this full stack development, but we will understand how that use case is going to work in a general project availability. I'm going to stop for a while and then answer this question. Yeah, so we got another big scenario of S4 HANA where we don't really get into this whole topics of how the programming model works in S4 HANA system. We'll just touch base embedded CDS views part to build some CDS views and give them to your embedded analytics page so that I can see the analytics keep how. Just give me a second. Sorry. Yeah, how the analytics is going to work on the S4. We're not going to really touch on the BAP models of CDS, BAP stored procedures and business objects, BOPFs, and etc. That's a core ABAPer who going to be involved in this whole stuff. Um, yeah, it's going to be very few hours we'll spend as an analytics person. How do you understand the serious views? How does serious architecture come in place? This serious views in S4 is different from serious in your native. This is HANA native serious, and this is ABAP annotated serious. It's a little more than differentiated between them. You got a BW on HANA, which is going to be BW for HANA as well. And we basically, you would have known, if you would have known the BW part, yeah, it's another data warehouse. You got this new ADSOs, composite providers, you do all sorts of transformations, you be able to request object. This is an architecture. If your underlying database is going to be HANA, you got some mixed scenarios happen to be there, which involve your calculation views being used in BW system and vice versa as well. What is going to be changed with that? When you externally generate a view in a BW, how that is going to generate in XSA is something very unclear at this moment. So is it going to get created in a container, or is it going to create it in classic schema? Yeah, there's really very little supportability for mixed scenarios in XS Advanced in both ways. From HANA to BW, and similarly BW to HANA. Similarly for S4 as well. Only standard content is supported for XSA. Okay, right? So there is a standard calculation views given for BPC, embedded, optimized HANA. Only those content is available on XS, supported on XS Advanced, not whatever you build in XS in S4. So the customization is not really supported at this moment, but it is going to be in future. Similarly, BW, there's very limited support in between mixed scenarios in BW4 also, the latest versions also. Um, Finally, the cloud platform. That's what I was talking. There are multiple. You can see that it's a cloud platform as has a cloud foundry environment, platform as a service environment. You can see all kind of services, your connectivity, your programming interfaces. You got also connected to your on-premise, and you got connected to your software as a services application, S4 HANA Cloud, SuccessFactors, and etc. You can extend the applications using new application programming model, which is your Node.js or Java, and your data models are going to be your CDS. We'll touch a little bit on this Cloud Foundry using WebIDE full stack. The uh, that's the development tool available in Cloud Platform. So you got a free license for that as well. So you can see this is my Cloud Platform license. I have got a Cloud Foundry trial and new trial, and I can access my new trial to access WebIDE. The Cloud Foundry trial gives me the application servers Cloud Foundry environment. I can build my organization spaces and basically XSA kind of stuff, everything here. And in my new trial, currently WebIDE full stack is in new trial, but it comes to the Cloud Foundry trial as well. It's a little transition time. If I have to find the services, I go to the services. It's free for 2 months. I mean, the XSA is the Cloud Foundry is free for a couple of months. As a developer, anyone can just go and play around with this one. It's going to just look like as your WebIDE on premise, but it is more than that. It is on cloud, and it's very more advanced than your WebIDE on HANA, which is on premise. So basically, I have built something here. It's on cloud wherever I can, and similarly GitHub integration here as well. You build them and deploy it. And could it be a database application, your server-side application, or HTML5 application, or web module as well. Similar look, and it's on-premise and it is cloud. You can see that. Yeah. We'll touch base on simple application, simple database application build and deployment in cloud platform, Cloud Foundry environment as well. That's what I put it in my course. You can see in week 1 initially we start with the introduction, um, um, with the XSA, simple MTA projects creation, serious artifacts, DDLs, some calculation views, and we'll containers. You'll see containers. You'll see some old XS OData, still in XS Advanced. XS OData and XSJS are supported. XS Node.js is backward compatible to support these two programming things which were available in Classic. So we don't worry, the customers who are in XS OData and XSJS still supported. You can start with them. And then you can see GitHub branching a little bit more. You can also see some security. There's a lot of things changed in security. We'll have to see them in a detailed way, because all my security is going to be handled in a design time. We're going to develop the security and build on during the development itself. Administrator will play a little bit less role in building the security model for us. And we'll also, this is about Cloud Foundry and other application integrations in terms of XSA with respect to S4 analytics and BW4 analytics. I'm going to review the certification books, which are 100 and 300 for modelers. My exercises are going to be in, every week I put it in my GitHub, some of them in this Git repository. I can pull and into it's some sample source code. I can clone it. I don't want to clone it. I can go and take this code and then explain this code. How does it look like, and how it is built, if there are any errors in building them, how to deploy it, etc. We're going to see. So most of my code is going to, I'll be placing every week on this repository, either maybe this repository or maybe I'll change to another repository. There are a couple of repositories. This is a public repository and anyone can access them. All the source code which I'm using here, it's content I've taken from several TechEd sessions and etc. and then simplified to get started with. It's going to be simple exercises in here. And then again, I separated each project to understand different scenarios. Like this one is for just get started with one. This is for HDI infrastructure. This is for Node.js. This is for your cross-container accessing from one container to another containers and schemas, outside schemas, and etc. This is a Shine project. This is JavaScript project. Yeah, so there are several repositories are formulated into your projects. So most of the time I will explain how it is done in XS Classic using Studio, how this content, your repository is gone away, and how this is replaced by GitHub and WebID stuff. I'll explain the differences, how this is handled in HDI container-based developments. That's something which we will see in coming days. Yeah, as I said, this is the objective. So you'll get, our focus is going to be on use case 1, 70% of the time, and 10% only on the application development with this Node.js, and then 5%, each 5% on these the containers, serious views and S4 in terms of HDI container, and similarly BW with containers. Server access, yes, I can help you to set up Google Cloud instance, which is something just like what you're seeing on my system right now. This is my own. I got my system user. I can do anything what I wanted to do, and there's no other users in this system. So it's fresh installation, you get it, and then you can play around with your roles, your stuff, everything. It's a revision 33, which is the latest one. That's it. I'll wait for a couple of minutes. If there are any other questions, I can answer. I'm also trying to unmute.
Yeah, I can take a session on setting up Google instance, maybe a couple of days after when we started this course. Yeah, it may take 15-20 minutes. It's so that you can have something to um, um, work on these exercises on your instance. Okay, thank you very much. Thank you all. I'm stopping this session now.